Yeah. Yes, sir. Next.
Is CBD oil something to be worried about? Is it a drug? Guess we should follow that too. Is it legal or illegal?
Well, I think it's, I'm not sure where it's at. I think it's legal now here, isn't it? There's some medical CBD. You'll know this better than I will. Here's what I know about that. CBD oil, it's funny because the weed that gets you highest, high in THC, low in CBDs. THC is actually a CBD. It's just one that's got a name on it because it's the one that gets you high, right? But there's a lot of them. The weird thing is if the dope is high in CBDs and low in THC, it won't get you high. Because those CBDs will fight for that receptor, cannabinoids, right? And bottom line is, nobody's talking about that because what they're using CBD oil as a Trojan horse. Because it does help with seizures, it does help with things. There are legitimate pain-relieving things that it does for people. But the marijuana industry is using that to go, see, we can bring all this and gummy bears. It's a con. That's what's happening. It's not being just relegated to just using CBD. Is it addictive? I think as much as anything that can relieve pain and help can be addictive. It doesn't necessarily have the same strong physical addiction as like an opiate or things like that, but psychological addiction, I love that people go, it's not physically addictive, it's just psychologically addictive. Last time I checked, your brain controls your body, so does that matter? You know what I mean? So there's a reality to, yes, it's addictive, but maybe not in the same ways like a physical addiction is going to occur.
So as he said, so marijuana has a whole bunch of chemicals, and they're all referred to as cannabinoids. THC is a cannabinoid. It's the one that makes you high. Yeah. So CBD is another one that appears to have some effect on seizure syndromes. But let me be clear, CBD is the only chemical that they've done the research on and have compared it to placebo to the satisfaction of the FDA for them to say, you know what? There appears to be medical efficacy here, and in the proper hands and dosing, we will agree that this is a medication. They told DEA, reclassify, but based on the law, this is what we do because it's based on what? Oh, the magic word, science. Here's where the science begins to diverge. There is hardly a scintilla of evidence that CBD affects anything else. There are some early studies that indicate potential for treatment of a few other things, but they don't have any hardcore studies, particularly where they compared the effect of CBD only to non-CBD and looking for the placebo effect. Okay? And even for the drug that's been approved called Epidiolex, and it's primarily marketed for young children who suffer from one type of seizure condition, Dravet syndrome, it's not that that drug takes the place of every medication, it's an adjunctive therapy, meaning it's in addition to the other anti-seizure medications you're taking. This is the information that the CBD people will not tell you. Okay? I'm not saying there isn't value to it. It's been scientifically demonstrated. And whether people believe it or not, DEA is rather agnostic when it comes to drugs. Because and the law requires that the science dictate. We do not have the authority to simply say, oh, that looks awful, make it a controlled substance. We have to propose this, and FDA has to agree with us, and both agencies have to do a scientific review. And only when both agencies agree will that suggestion go into effect. We don't have a magic wand to do this. And quite honestly, you don't want us to. Where I diverge from the marijuana industry, and I lump them all together with CBD, is this is just a Trojan horse to get more marijuana available. Marijuana is the only substance that is now recommended in some states for the treatment of, well, writer's cramp in California. Yeah, that's one of them. Yeah. Where you don't do it through scientific research, you do it through public referendum. Well, that old lady might be helped with it. Who doesn't like old ladies? I'm voting for it. Where's the science? We say, let the science control. Show us the research that demonstrates efficacy and, more importantly, safety. Because every other medication that you take has to go through that rigorous scientific review, including aspirin. And more importantly, those drugs that are manufactured go through a rigorous inspection process through disinterested third parties, mostly the government, to ensure that when that manufacturer says it contains 5 milligrams of this, 3 milligrams of that, other fillers and everything else, that that's exactly what's in there, that they followed a cleanliness process to make it correctly, and it meets all these standards. The CBD oil people are buying, the bud tender who is selling it to you, that's your safety and quality control guy. Okay? Because the companies that manufacture this have no standard by which they must abide, except their own innate honesty. That's it. This is a totally buyer beware industry. And there's no guarantee that what you have is what the label says. What's the concentration? Oh, and by the way, how much CBD are you supposed to take? Anyone? Ask a doctor. And you get a blank stare, because they don't know. There's no research. They don't know. So what doctor is going to recommend this? And did you know that in most of the states that have legalized marijuana where it's recommended, less than 3% of the practitioners in that state are the ones issuing 90% of the recommendations, and it's probably not because they're the most enlightened. This is a cash cow, nothing less. Sorry, that's my soapbox.